Man, listen, the way I was living while growing up in Chicago, I knew there was always a good chance I'd end up in jail. But as you all know, I've since changed my life and made something of myself. So for me to be sitting in a maximum security prison after coming this far is crazy. But I'm not here for the reason you may think. So about 2 weeks ago, I was at the crib in the kitchen, cooking some lunch and scrolling on YouTube. I had just finished up my morning workout and honestly, I was feeling pretty good. Well, that's when I got an urgent text message from my grandpa telling me to call him as soon as possible. Yo, what's up, Pops? Is everything okay?
Everything's fine.
You told me to call you. What's going on?
Alright, look, son, I'm gonna come right out and say it. Your father has been calling the house for the past few weeks looking to speak with you.
Man, hold on, what? Why you just not telling me this?
Your grandmother and I thought it'd be best if we waited until the season was over to tell you. That way you can stay focused on the game. But listen, I went ahead and gave him your number, so you should be hearing from him soon. I'll give you a call a little later. I love you, son.
Upset, confused, anxious, nervous. Man, those were all just a few of the emotions I felt while waiting on his call. I hadn't talked to my dad since a couple weeks after my 15th birthday. So for him to have the audacity to reach out now, after I made it this far, just blows my mind. I spent the rest of that day glued to my phone waiting for his call to come, but it never came. The following days, my nerves were just as high, so I knew I needed to get out the house. I spent the most of my time in the car exploring the city or putting in work in the weight room. Well, I was having lunch in the cafeteria at the team's training facility one day, and that's when the call finally came. Over the course of the next week, my dad and I talked every day for hours, mainly about sports, of course, and a few old memories from my childhood. Well, about 3 years ago, he got moved here to the Florida State Prison to finish off his sentence. I was going to be here in Florida anyways for the Pro Bowl, so I figured I may as well pay him a visit.
Man, look, son, I know me not being there for you after your mother passed, I know that hurt. I would have given anything to change the way things happen, but unfortunately, I can't. And that's something that haunts me every day.
Why did you feel it was okay to stop calling the house and responding to my letters after my mama died?
I was hurt, son. I was hurt.
You were hurt? You don't think I was hurt? Man, be for real. You not only left me to raise myself as a kid, but you left me again when I needed you the most.
Darius, look, man, I know I'm not perfect. None of us are. All I'm trying to do here is just establish a relationship with my son. Now, I understand that there's a lot we need to talk about, but we ain't got to get into all that one day. Why don't we just catch up a little, man?
The visit with my dad went well, I guess. We talked through a few things, but there's still a lot more we need to discuss. He told me he had his sentence reduced and he should be getting out within the next 3 years. I honestly don't know how to feel about the whole thing, but it is what it is. Anyways, I got like a 2-hour drive back to Orlando, so I guess I might as well fill y'all in on how my first year in the league went. Man, it's a lot that they don't prepare you for in the league. You just really gotta adapt to the system. I thought I'd have a lot more free time than I did in college, but nah, it's the complete opposite. Most days I wake up at about 5:30 a.m. and have my protein shake, and then I do my morning routine. Shortly thereafter, I'm out the door to get in some early morning cardio. Now, I normally try to do about 3 miles at a pretty moderate tempo just to get my blood flowing. Once I'm done with that, it's off to the team facility for weights and my early morning meetings. Now, those usually last about 2.5, maybe 3 hours, and then depending on when our game is scheduled, we have a pretty intense practice. I ain't gonna lie though, you probably think that the practice would be somewhat fun, but honestly, it's really the worst part because all we do is walk through the exact same thing we just finished watching on film, but hey, I guess it is what it is, right? Another thing they don't prepare you for is your family begging. Man, honestly, I can't even really call these people my family because I never seen them before I made it to the league, but now that I'm here, they seem to be popping up everywhere. One of my uncles even matched with me on Tinder, posing as a fine-ass Latina chick. I'm telling y'all, bruh, it's getting crazy. But look, I was back in the city for the opening of my grandparents' new church. I guess you can consider this my first big purchase. Yeah, I was able to get the building for pretty cheap, and then I spent a couple thousand just remodeling the place. But anyways, while I was there visiting, that same uncle pulled me to the side to ask for a crazy request.
Oh, Darius, what's going on, baby? What's going on? Hey, just the man I wanted to see. Now, look, I just want to say, before I say anything, I want to say congratulations for all your accomplishments, whatever that is. But look, man, I got something to talk to you about. Real big money moves. So I think that was about last week. I was eating up at the homeless shelter, and I thought to myself, what if I started doing real estate for luxury cardboard homes? That'd be crazy, wouldn't it? It'd be crazy. We start a line of cardboard boxes. We call it cheap living from the soup kitchen. You dig what I'm saying? Now look, all I'ma need is about 80 grand. Okay, I'm gonna need about 80 grand. And we can get this thing started. Now look, once everything get back, you know what I'm saying? I get 95. I take 95%, you get 20. Now tell me, do I look like somebody that's not trustworthy? Huh? You can trust me with your money. Go and give me that 80 grand. You can trust me with your money. Go and give me that 80 grand.
So look, I'll be the first to say that I lived a pretty boring life off the field this year. Yeah, I didn't do too much and I just stayed out the way for the most part. But on the field, that was a completely different story. I was a problem for any opposing defense they put in front of me. Not only that, but I became a key weapon on this year's team. As a matter of fact, let me show y'all some of the work I put in. We kicked our season off at home versus the Arizona Cardinals. Now, we had a pretty amazing training camp and preseason, so the team's morale was at an all-time high and the buzz throughout the city was crazy. But look, our offense came out really aggressive, moving the ball up the field with ease. Honestly, I figured with this being our first game, we come out more so conservative, but apparently Coach Riviera had other plans. But look, midway through the first quarter, I would score my first official NFL touchdown. That moment felt so unreal, but I couldn't celebrate for too long because, of course, we still had more work to do. Little did I know the joy I felt after scoring my first touchdown would come back only minutes later as I was able to find the end zone again for my second tutty of the game. We went on to take the victory in the season opener, and I had a hell of a day, putting up over 150 rushing yards on only 22 attempts, plus 3 touchdowns. Yeah, we was off to a very hot start. I've always heard about how hard it is to breathe a mile-high stadium, but honestly, I didn't pay it too much attention heading into week 2 to take on the Denver Broncos. This was my first NFL road game, so I didn't know what to expect. But if I'm being honest, it really wasn't all that bad. Yeah, it was loud, but I think Bama versus LSU games had the Bronco fans beat. Or it could have just been the fact that we had the stadium completely silent for most of the game as I broke off 2 huge back-to-back touchdown runs in just the first half. Now, as much as I'd like to take all the credit for my success during this game, it really belongs to those guys up front. I went completely untouched on both plays, which is crazy. Week 3, the Buffalo Bills came to town looking for the smoke. Yeah, of course, they was trying to put a stop to our undefeated season before it even got started. But, I mean, come on, bro. We wasn't going for none of that. After a huge kick return and only 3 offensive plays, we had already put up 7 points on the board. I mean, it was literally just 3 plays before we scored. Now, y'all know I got to keep it real, though. They completely had me shut down the entire game. I think going into halftime, I only had like 53 rushing yards. I was really struggling to get a first down. And to make matters even worse, my guy JB went down with the injury that was going to cause him to miss the next 6 weeks of the season, bruh. 6 weeks is crazy. But y'all know the old saying, next man up. Sam Howell came in the game throwing absolute darts, moving us up the field to score another touchdown and another victory at home, improving our record to a very impressive 4-0 to start the season. The Philadelphia Eagles. Man, even though I never really watched sports growing up, I always liked this squad, mainly because of how hard their fans rolled for their team. I remember as a kid watching an old YouTube video of a couple Eagles fans running into the side of a car of a Cowboys fan that was stranded on the side of the road. Bruh, I don't know why that's so funny to me. But anyways, now the Eagles is the ops, and y'all should already know how I'm stepping every time it's smoke. I sent a message early on cracking over 100 rushing yards on just 5 attempts, but unfortunately, we faced a bit of adversity early on as well, as Sam threw a 70-yard pick 6 right before the halftime, which ultimately changed the whole dynamic of the game. We were down big in the fourth quarter with only a few minutes left, and things weren't looking too good, but we still fought hard. We drove all the way down the field and ended up getting a touchdown, but unfortunately, it was too little too late. We suffer our first loss of the season at the hands of the Philadelphia Eagles. Losing in the pros is a lot different than losing in college. Now, don't get me wrong, I truly believe all the players care the same, but if you really think about it, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to care about losing as a pro when you set to make millions regardless of the outcome. I think that must be what separates the average from the greats then, huh? But anyways, check this out. Our next game, we'd be taking on the home team, the Chicago Bears. I knew all my teammates and classmates and exes and uncles and cousins would be watching, so I was itching to make a big play. Unfortunately, that big play never came, but the team performed very well. Well, that was until my guy Sam, yet again threw another interception, which eventually led to the Bears getting a touchdown and another loss for us on the season. No matter how good you play, the one thing you'll never be able to beat is turnovers. I remember going into week 6 versus the Falcons thinking that if we could just stop giving the ball back to the defense, we could actually have some success and pull off some tough games in the second half of the season. Well, those thoughts were quickly erased as we turned the ball over yet again on our first possession of the game. Of course, the Falcons took advantage of the good field position and went on to score. I knew we were in need of a boost of energy, so I came in clutch, taking a draw play up the field for like 20 yards, putting us right outside the red zone. The next play, I was able to find a huge hole in the zone coverage and fight for a few extra yards, almost picking up the first down. Finally, I busted my way into the end zone to tie the game up going into halftime. Well, so I thought. Man, the Falcons completely ran through our defense, taking the lead back and going up by 11 points. Yet again, we found ourselves trailing in another close game. At this point, I wasn't having much success on the ground, so that was all the more reason to become a threat through the air. I broke off my blocking assignment and became wide open over the middle, catching the pass and taking it in for a touchdown, but unfortunately we missed the field goal, so we were still down by 5. Luckily, our defense was able to hold up and force a turnover, putting the ball back into our hands with more than enough time to start a comeback. I would come up clutch yet again on a wheel route out the backfield for a touchdown. Y'all remember all that work I was putting in on my pass catching in Alabama, right? Well, as you can see, it all paid off. We then went on to successfully complete the 2-point conversion, giving us a 3-point lead. Somehow the Falcons managed to score not once, but twice. I mean, they really put up 14 points all in a matter of 5 minutes. I honestly still don't know what happened. Like, to this day, I have no idea, bruh, but even though we played a good game, we still went on to suffer defeat. Yet again, those turnovers played a huge role in our demise, but like I always say, it is what it is. Week 7 taking on the New York Giants, we finally had my guy Jacoby Brissett back in the lineup, and I was excited. Well, that excitement only lasted about 3 plays as Buddy came out and threw a damn interception on the opening drive. Honestly, I wasn't even really too much upset. I mean, hell, by that point I was already used to it. Believe it or not, we played even worse with our starting QB back in the lineup than we did with his backup. And can y'all believe the Giants equipment manager tried to shoot the ones with me on the sideline? Now, I started to suck Buddy off, but luckily I was able to contain myself. But look, my guy JB played absolutely horrible. I knew he was coming back from injury, so I didn't expect too much, but come on, bro. We literally only scored 1 touchdown all game, and that came off of a screen pass. Man, I think bro really finished with like 90 passing yards for the whole game, and you guessed it, we lost again. Week 9, back at home versus the Eagles with the chance to tie the season series. But come on now, y'all should know better than that. It was much of the same. I'll give it to my guy JB, he played a little bit better, but I keep telling y'all, those turnovers put us out of games before they even get started. We were finally able to score on the opening drive for the first time in what felt like forever, but unfortunately, that was really the only bright spot of the game. Of course, in the second half, we were trailing, but the game was still close. So it was only right for us to throw an interception and the Eagles go on to score a touchdown. I swear, if it was allowed, I probably would have bet against my own team this season because we played so predictable. I mean, it was the same thing week after week, and honestly, it got to the point that it started to feel pointless. I felt like a lot of the guys were out there just running around, playing with no pride, and honestly, it got flat out embarrassing. We became that team that you were embarrassed to lose to. Week 9, we'd be on the road in Foxborough taking on the New England Patriots. We finally were matched up against a team that I honestly felt like we were better than. We started off playing pretty well as me and JB were able to make a beautiful connection to the back of the end zone for 6. Then coming out on the next drive, I had the wheel route coming out of the backfield, but it ended up getting intercepted and took all the way back for a touchdown. As I mentioned before though, we were used to playing against adversity, so we didn't panic. Nah, we just came back out on the next drive and made more plays. At this point of the season, I had become a huge threat through the air and of course on the ground. I mean, I was literally carrying the offense every single game and I was ranked 2nd on the team in reception yards. Now, I'd be lying to y'all if I told you my body wasn't starting to feel all those hits, but there were still games left to be played. With 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter and a 2-point lead, I went on to put the final nail in the coffin, pulling off the highlight reel type play for a touchdown, giving us a 2-possession lead and securing the win on the road. This game was actually one of my best games of the season as I was able to finish with over 170 rushing yards, 96 receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. I remember the exact moment like it was yesterday. It was week 10 and we were on the road in Seattle. Right before kickoff, I had looked at the playoff picture and of course we were nowhere to be found. Honestly, we were having a horrible season and not much to play for, so that's when I decided to be selfish. Now, normally with my team being so bad, I would probably just go through the motions, not take stuff serious. But it was at that moment that I promised myself to still put my all into the game until the end of the season. Turnovers had been a huge problem for the team all year, but I was always able to say I was never really responsible for any of them. Well, my first fumble came during this game, and honestly, I ain't have nobody to blame but myself. Of course, we ended up losing yet another game, but like I said, I had shifted my focus. I didn't care about winning anymore. I was only worried about putting up huge numbers, and I did just that. With just 2 minutes left in the game, I made a huge house call off a screen pass, stuffing the stat sheet before the end of regulation. Week 11, we be back at home taking on the New York Giants again for the second time this season. To my surprise, the fans still packed the stadium and were screaming just as loud as they were the first game of the season. I really appreciated the fans being there and showing their loyalty. However, I was upset that we didn't give them much to cheer for. Listen, we only scored one single touchdown this game. I mean, like literally one touchdown. No matter how much enthusiasm you may have, bro, that's hard to cheer for. And I know y'all probably sick and tired of hearing me talk about how bad we were, but bruh, I wish I was lying. And it wasn't like we weren't running the plays correctly or the other team was just way bigger and stronger than us. No, they were just simply better. Yes, I said it, every team we faced was simply better, especially at the skill positions. Minus me, of course. Well, look, man, we dropped another game at home, adding another loss to our miserable record. The final game on my rookie season came week 13 versus the Dallas Cowboys, Thanksgiving Day. Yeah, I know you're probably confused and wondering why my season was cut short. Well, listen, I was equally confused when I got the news and had no idea what was going on. That's when I was introduced to NFL politics. Now, I don't know if I'm even supposed to be telling y'all this, but I'm going to explain everything to you how they explained it to me. With the team officially being out of the playoff picture, there was literally no reason for us to still be playing. So it would be pointless for me to be out there taking those hits for no reason. I spent the next 5 weeks of the season on the sideline with a toe injury, whatever that means. But look, I stood there and watched us lose 4 out of the next 5 games. A few of the big names in the front office assured me things were going to change over the offseason, so just stay patient. Well, bruh, they wasn't lying. On January 8th, they officially fired Coach Ron Rivera and a few other members of the staff. Even though our season was absolutely horrible, I still managed to achieve a great deal of success, as I was of course named to the NFL All-Pro team, and I'll be playing in my first Pro Bowl. Look, I don't know what the future holds for me here in Washington, but I do know that wherever I'm at, I'm going to shine. Y'all stayed down with me from the grimy streets of Chicago to the bright lights of the NFL. The road to glory is a long journey, and it looks like I still got a ways to go, but I think I'm headed in the right direction.